Hey, it's that time of year, time to open up a nice holiday tale. We're gonna open up a book called Woke Jesus. No, I don't mean me, but thank you. Woke Jesus is a book from last year from an author, Lucas Miles, who is part of Turning Point USA Faith. You know, the Charlie Kirk people. No. If I had to do this, and so do you. So, the first question I guess anyone would have for Mr. Lucas Miles is, what to you is woke? To Lucas, it's microaggressions, intersectionality, anything non-binary, critical race theory, liberal academic theorist, diversity-obsessed sociologist, left-wing educator, liberalism, socialism, communism, scientism, progressivism, identity politics, globalism, critical race theory again, whole chapter on critical race theory, BLM, white fragility, anything that sounds like a one-world government, climate change, leftist billionaires. He's got a whole section here on George Soros. You're not surprised by that at all, are you? He hates the 1619 Project. He considers it debunked. Anything genders, transphobe all the way, buddy. He is pro-conversion therapy, though. Are you surprised by any of those? I mean, I don't want to destroy this. This is good yarn. Do you see the work? Oh, look, a TARDIS. Do you see the work I'm trying to do here? Miles really wants to connect some very serious dots to prove how wokeism is corrupt and has always been corrupt as far back in time. The problem is his connections don't add up. I'm not sure how much of this is just taking it from other people, but he does put in the work. My goodness, he even has footnotes. Do you know what all this is? This is an example of academic masturbation. He really wants to connect those dots. Oh, baby, he wants to connect those dots to prove that woke is just really corrupt and premature conclusions. See the head of your philosophy department if you experience premature conclusions. To be fair, there are obvious connections between Hegel and Marx. Very obvious connections. But a lot of this is just window dressing, because we all know what word really counts here. And if you say the magic word, you win $100. That's a deep cut, look it up. Say the word with me, comrade. Marxism. He can just keep coming back to this, and believe me, Mr. Miles does. All he cares about is that if you don't know Hegel from Strudel, doesn't matter. As long as he says this, that's all you need to know, baby. For crying out loud, have you checked out the cover of the book? I wonder what kind of subtle hint is he trying to give? And as long as he got all those pages and all those big fancy words, well then, of course, all it is just to support this. More evidence for this. Let me simple this down. He wants to take all those thoughts and drill them together by using one big sounding word. And what is that 5-syllable word? It's alienation. Ooh, what is that? You want to know what this comes down to? It's a problem. It's a disconnect. Something's wrong in my society. Or something's wrong in my religion, or something's wrong in my workplace. I'm a worker, but I feel like I have no control over what I make, how I make it, how I get paid for it. Someone in a religion feels disconnected from God. Someone in society feels like they're disconnected from equality. All those pages, all those chapters just simply say that whether you're Gnostics or Hegelian or Marxist or someone involved with Black Lives Matter, you see a problem. And part of that is examining what is keeping the solution from happening. Is it opportunities? Is it your laws? Is it one group of people taking advantage of someone else? We have a king. Well, maybe we shouldn't have a king. Oh, we have billionaires. Well, maybe we shouldn't have billionaires. And he's presenting all this lineage from Gnosticism to Hegelian dialect to Marxism to woke as if questioning is the problem. Trying to solve problems. Doesn't sound so scary once you get to that point, do you? And there is a bit of a problem when you're using these particular connections. And that problem is the USA. Somewhere in this history, there was a little country come together called America. And in America, there were these people called the Founding Fathers. And for all the declarations of this being a Christian nation, first and foremost, a lot of these gentlemen were of different faiths. Thomas Jefferson famously has his own version of the Bible that you can go and see for yourselves. It is called the Jeffersonian Bible because why wouldn't it be? But the Jeffersonian Bible is interesting in that all of the miracles, all of the supernatural things of Christ are removed. But if you are a spiritual advisor, a strategist for Turning Point USA, you can't really mix this whole thing up by saying, oh, and there are other people who kind of believe like this, who question things like Christ's divinity, like our founding fathers. And so, of course, Miles pushes anything out that might muddy the waters, you might say. If you're going to only draw the parallels that you want, you can have all the tables and footnotes you want, but you are BSing your people. And the problem is, of course, is that the people he's talking to, the ones who are going to read this and go, great, now I have all these great reasons to say why woke is bad. They can go to other people and say, I've done the research. Look at all this research. I don't have to listen because it's all Marxist. I don't even know what Marx is, but I've been told it's bad. Oh, and if you think this is messy, oh, wait till you see what Lucas Miles does when you start to bring in race. Excuse me for a second. You wait, or I gotta get the whiteboard ready again. So, we're talking about Woke Jesus, Lucas Miles' lovely book about how commie everything is. It's all a bunch of Marxism, baby. That's all you need to know. It's Marxist, it's against God, it's against America. What else do you need to know? I'm jumping all over with accents today, aren't I? Because now we're getting into race. Mr. Miles is not a fan of critical theory, and he seems to have some issues with race. So when you bring them together into critical race theory, well, my goodness, this acronym just blows his mind. Because, boy, he doesn't like CRT. What's wrong with critical race theory, according to Lucas Miles? Well, are you sitting down? I think you should sit down for this. To start things off with a bit of an amuse-bouche, dear God, help me to hate white people. After the appropriate pearl clutching, you realize we're talking about Prayer of a Weary Black Woman. Dr. Shaniqua Walker Barnes' recent addition to a collection of prayers in a 2021 book. It's the struggle that people of minorities and marginalized communities have had since day one, that it's one thing to have the people that are in your face and they say, you're an abomination, or you should not be in this country, or you should not have these rights. It's worse to deal with those who just smile in your face, and yes, they'll be your friend, but they feel really uncomfortable when someone is protesting, police violence. And here is where the acrobatics kick in. Because we take the prayer of a weary black woman. So we take the prayer, and he just decides to connect it to black liberation theology. Well, is there actually any connection between the two? No. But he needs to get it to black liberation theology. Because once again, Lucas Miles needs to shove that Marx juice into any of this discussion by just poisoning the well, demonizing and spreading it as he goes. Without going into a deep dive, it's trying to wrestle back Christianity as a symbol for the oppressed. So much of the civil rights movement was caught in what tools are available, what things are actually being used against African Americans. So you had the contradictions of the way Malcolm X wanted to do things, the way Martin Luther King Jr. wanted to do things, the concept of black power, black Christianity, feeling that Jesus in America was just this white Jesus of oppression, and that maybe it would be better suited for there to be a black Jesus. Lucas Miles takes the concept of a black Jesus and says, hey, wait a second. You can't just make Jesus whatever you want. You know who else did that? Or you think he's not going there? Well, you know he's going there. You know he's going there. Yep, he went there. Just like these critical race theory people, just like James Coney and the Black Liberation Theology, they're acting just like you'd think this would be the the end all be all. Well, like, how can we go any lower? And Lucas Miles, drill, baby, drill. And that's when we get to Christian nationalists. And I was actually surprised. It's like, wait a second, in context of all of this, maybe I'm going to be shocked. Maybe, just maybe, he holds parts of or the whole thing of Christian nationalism in contempt as well for distorting the gospel or for some other thing. What was I thinking? I was wrong. I was so wrong. All right, get ready for this. Since Christian nationalists are trying to uphold all the traditional American values and the truly Christian values, well, in his mind, actually, it's the woke Christians that are the real Christian nationalists. Don't you understand? It's not the Christian nationalists that are the Christian nationalists. It's the woke Christians that are the Christian nationalists. That one can kind of be laughed off. But then we get to the fun part. One of the main complaints against Christian nationalists is that they are trying to seize the reins of power. Well, you know who else was falsely accused of having power? Yes. Because Germany at that time was making them a scapegoat, and since part of scapegoating a group is to say that they are too powerful and they need to be contained or controlled, well then, ta-da! According to Lucas Miles, Christian nationalists fall far more here, and of course then the woke Christians fall on this side. Yep, I gotta wash this off. After I finished this book, it took me a while to figure out why he wrote it. At the heart of it, the complaint of everything in this book is to say that everything is heresy. Critical theory is heresy. Gnostics, it's heresy. Black liberation theory, CRT, any of it is heresy. But the thing is that a book that just basically calls everything around you heresy to a crowd that is already on your side, because other than weirdos like me, who else is going to read this but the people who are already agreeing with you? You are proverbially preaching to the choir. You're not trying to find solutions. You're not trying to tell your audience, here's how we can build a bridge, or here are the ideas where they actually have a grain of thought. No, it's all removed. So if you're basically saying all of it is wrong, all of it is heresy, then why did you write it? Hell, in the beginning of your book, you just say, to all my woke brothers and sisters, someday you'll learn you're all wrong and then you'll finally come back. And we will embrace you with open arms. Wow. What an olive branch. And then in the middle of the night, it did finally kind of hit me. You are reassuring your flock that they are correct, that you have the one true answer. But the funny thing is that enveloping all of this, besides demonizing, besides spewing a lot of hate, and man, you spew a lot, I figured out the theme that connects it all together. Not to go all John Carpenter's They Live on you, but I figured out the entirety of your book and the solutions come down to this. This is your book in a nutshell. That is the entirety of your book. The Bible is perfect. Your Lord and Savior is perfect. You do not question. You do not examine. You do not do anything to try and relate it to your own society, your own struggles, your own alienation. For Christ's sake, you actually have a moment where you say, even slavery is temporary. Because eventually you get this. So all the struggles, why talk about them? Why question them? All the situations that you find yourself in as perhaps a minority, as someone with a different point of view, as someone who doesn't even believe in all this. I'm trying to imagine the book of Exodus playing out as Moses going to the Hebrew slaves. It's only temporary. Really? After over 200 pages Do we get to any solutions? Any advice? It's real simple. If your church believes in any of this woke stuff, well, you leave. If your school where your kids go believes in any of this woke stuff, you bring them home and you homeschool them. Oh, and vote red. But here's the thing, Lucas. I have known a lot of men and women of the cloth. Children of God, if you would. I have known nuns and priests and monsignors. I have known rabbis and deacons who have written blogs and books and articles. I've listened to a lot of speeches and homilies over the decades. I have listened to people who have very different views on what the church and the people should do. And I'm trying to imagine if any of them would have written something as pathetic as yours. You are adding so much hatred into this under the guise of reassurance, telling your flock that those people there, all the people, all of their struggles, because they do not believe exactly as you do, they are all, I don't know. You don't even talk about them as if they're people that are just simply lost and need being saved. It is one thing for conservative politicians to scapegoat, to turn the other side as being anti-American or even anti-God. But man, it is a different thing for a person of God to speak with that language. It would be interesting if you could have stood there and spewed all of this in front of the very Savior you are promising to uphold. Be curious to see what he would say. But hey, I'm just another one of those crazy woke people. What do we know, right? All right.